Hello, friends. I'm very excited to be bringing in Jake today. I'm going to have Darcy read the bio and we will get started.
Hello, all. I am so happy to be here uh, introducing Jake Haupert. Jake is a pioneer in transformational travel and the co-founder of the Transformational Travel Council. He works at the intersection of travel, personal growth, and regenerative tourism, helping destinations, hospitality brands, and experience designers create journeys that inspire healing, reflection, and meaningful change. Through retreats, immersive experiences, and guided programs, Jake explores how travel can become a catalyst for deeper self-awareness and connection, not to mention purpose. A speaker, strategist, and advisor to global travel leaders, Jake blends living systems thinking with practical experience design to help people and organizations move beyond transactions and into transformation. He is a member of the Explorers Club and the International Society of Hospitality Consultants. We're going to hear about how all of this came to be and more in today's conversation. So I'll hand it back over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Darcy. Welcome, Jake. Yay. So,
Hello, Michelle. Hello, Darcy. Thank you.
um, I had the opportunity to get connected to you through Jody Morris, who came on to the podcast too a couple episodes ago.
Hmm.
I'm so grateful that she connected me. I love the ripple effect that you have and the languaging that you're using about transformational travel. It's been so inspiring to me. So thank you for doing the beautiful work that you do. I'd love to help our audience understand a little bit about how you got into this and kind of your journey into this beautiful work that you do.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Lovely to be here. And I too am very grateful that Jody's connected us. Jody's a very special person and doing really incredible work in the field of tourism herself. Yeah, so I'm very happy about it. Anyway, gosh, where should I start? I guess the I was one of the lucky ones, I think, that knew pretty early, what they wanted to do, right? I had an epiphany or a light bulb moment in my early 20s on a bluff, in on coastal in San Diego area. And ever since then I've been dedicated to that. And that centers around travel, conservation, and impact. And also recognizing that I was entrepreneurial. Realizing that I wanted to sort of take it into my own hands and see what was possible by dedicating my life to this work. I started my first company at age 30, and that was essentially focused on bringing people into national parks and getting them connected to nature. And so, out of Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco, we were running naturalist-led adventures into the parks, for that purpose. Helping people deepen that important and vital relationship that I think is often missing for too many of us. That continued to grow, and I did that for a long time. About it was around 2014 when I started really questioning what was possible in the current tourism paradigm. And I saw that a lot of what was special and powerful about travel and tourism, or what tourism superpower is getting people to stretch and learn and grow. But yet it seemed to be drifting into this place of entitlement and expectations and ego, and the service paradigm just shifted it in a way that people were going to travel for escape and entertainment rather than with purpose and with mindset. And so there was the term transformational travel being bantered around at that time. And I felt that what, coming from a sort of a spiritual background and family, and being raised by hippies, I had a pretty good idea of what that meant. And so I really wanted to see what we could do when we unlock transformation through travel. Like what are the ingredients, the condition, what is that vessel that can be created to have more transformations? And so that led to the Transformational Travel Council, and this wonderful global community that we have, and our educational programs and consulting, and different pilgrimage and retreats, all around better understanding, what is possible in transformational travel.
I love your story. Um, you,
Thanks.
you provide trainings for people like myself that want to get into this kind of work, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah,
What does that look
absolutely.
like for some people out there that are like, yes, transformational travel, I want to do that. I want to like facilitate and work
Mhm.
with that. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a big question, and I'll go back to something that you said at the beginning of the conversation around language.
Mhm.
And I think that that's been arguably one of the biggest challenges that we've faced, is how do you put language around some of these ideas and concepts and philosophies, and make it approachable, make it practical for travel and tourism folks that may not necessarily connect with the essence of the work that we're trying to do. And so that's been an ongoing challenge, identifying the markets, building language, and building trainings that help them move the needle, economically, and from a ripple of impact perspective. And so ultimately, we've identified that because this is so emergent, and it is global, that there are different, pockets of individuals that are emerging in different spaces and across all sectors that are being drawn into this. So we get travel advisors, we get nature guides in Africa, we get retreat centers in India, we get tour operators and inbound tour operators in Ecuador, we get hotels in Saudi Arabia, right? Like it's just this really unique smattering of individuals that seem to be coming forward and looking for this training. So that's put us in a position, to how can we design curriculum and impart some techniques and tactics that can be applied for a larger audience that's getting into this. And so there's also the individuals that are coming from your space that are interested in, how can we build retreats, how can we get into catalyzing travel ourselves, because it can be so healing, it can be so impactful in our lives, and how can we step into that industry? And so, it is a challenge, and the tourism industry is um, very complex. It's very multidimensional, and there's a lot of bad habits, and there's a lot of sort of, this is the way that we do things. This is the way that we design itineraries. This is the way that we design experiences. This is what a hospitality experience looks like. And it's just shifted into this some unhealthy patterns, that make a lot of these concepts difficult to translate into sort of modern tourism. And then so in a lot of those individuals, like the coaches, like the retreat facilitators, like the therapists that have a deep understanding for this, it's a tough nut to crack, making this leap into travel and tourism, because those languages, they don't know, those industries don't know how to talk to each other. I'm hoping that the TTC can, is bridging that gap, because it's that coaching mentality, it's that therapist mindset, that opportunity to really catalyze, travel for these purposes, is exactly what's needed in the space.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of naivete in like the retreat world right now, where people are just kind of jumping in thinking like, oh, cool, I could just go travel, like really not understanding
Yeah.
the bridge that needs to happen, because you might have a specialty and be able to maybe facilitate something, but then to actually organize and curate
Mhm.
something that rolls smoothly so that the person that's actually going on the retreat actually has an enjoyable experience beyond just the piece that they're bringing in is there's a lot that goes into it that I don't
There
think.
is, and unless you have built-in community, that you can tap into for these retreats, it's really challenging to grab any sort of market share out there for tour operators that have been doing this for years, because they're competing against, very large companies that are outspending you, and are these machines that really don't allow a lot of, um, cracks for that light to shine through on the retreat facilitator that really identifies with this work, wants to take that step, but has a difficult time, you know, getting people to book or register and monetizing the model. Right. So you see a lot of these organizations that sort of rise up with really good energy, really good intentions, and then realize like, oh man, this is a field that's very challenging to get traction in.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Um, it sounds like you have the opportunity throughout the year to actually facilitate some travel yourself, some retreat travel, some transformational
Mhm.
travel. Can you share a little bit about what you're going to be doing this year?
Yeah, yeah, happy to. I as I've gone on this journey, as a founder and dare I say visionary that cares deeply about this. I've also recognized that, like a lot of entrepreneurs, we're good at ideas, we're good at bringing things forward, we're good at building energy, but building a strong organization business that's poised to sort of scale those that is a challenge for a lot of us, right? And so I've recently brought on a COO, Heather Morse, who is very strategic and operationally minded, and for the reason of really solidifying our foundation as an organization so we can go out and have the impact that we want. With that, it's given me the more opportunity to do the things that I hope that I'm good at, which is the teaching and the facilitating, and then also being out in the field, and so the last year, and then going forward, I've had the opportunity to facilitate some groups. One that I did last year was a father and son trip to Tanzania, and I was able to bring my son, and it was very much a rite of passage, and we talked about transitioning from high school to college, and that was super meaningful, and so we'll be doing that again next year or in 2027 with my daughter, and but then there's also our retreats. We did this wonderful wisdom retreat in partnership with the Modern Elder Academy last year, that I was able to facilitate, all centered around wisdom and travel and tourism. And then this year, I will be, over the last 3 years, I've hosted a pilgrimage with our ally members and advisors, Joao and Nuno at Walking Mentorship, who I know you're familiar with, and running your own Camino in April. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. So, I'll be the TTC, and Jillian Dickens, our director of special projects. She'll be facilitating one in May. And then I will be heading out with Joao and Nuno on the Camino Kodo, of which we scouted last year, which was amazing.
Mhm.
We'll be doing that in October. Yeah, so there's these opportunities to get out in the field that I'm loving. All this is built on human connection, right? So if I can be out there and facilitating human connection with self and with others and with nature, I'm in my element.
Yeah, that's what I love that you guys had found Japan and created this transformational travel experience, because it's just going to be so different than just going out there and doing kind of the traditional model of travel. It's such a beautiful country to really connect and
Hmm.
be in the nature. And people often don't even go into the places that you guys are going to take them. They're often
Hmm.
kind of stuck in the city, and I mean that's great and all, but there's something magical that happens when
Yeah. Well, you got to do it because the UNESCO Heritage Program has recognized the Camino Kodo and the Camino de Santiago as this dual pilgrim opportunity. And so, I think there's 11,000 people that have completed both pilgrimage.
huh.
And there's all sorts of beautiful ritual and ceremony. I mean, specifically on the Camino Kodo, because it's less popular and commoditized like the Camino de Santiago. So I think it's important to do the Camino de Santiago first and then do the Camino Cotto. And they blend in, I mean, amazing, awe-inspiring nature, number one. Like the quiet on this trail is just otherworldly. But then there is, on any pilgrimage, there are these points where you are slowing down to honor, to gain presence, to get a passport stamp, to continue on that journey. And in Japan, they have they believe in Buddhism and Shinto, and so they have Shinto shrines and Buddhist temples every few miles along this trail, which
Mhm.
just deepens the experience in such an incredible way, right? Like, and so not many places on the planet can you engage in that sort of experience, right? And so even if you're not religious, right, it's a wonderful way just to reconnect with yourself and kind of look outwardly, like who am I? Who do I want to become, right? How am I going to get there? And I think that's the beautiful part of what pilgrimage brings. There's more people on pilgrimage last year than any year in history. So that means that people are craving meaning, they're craving purpose, they're craving quiet, they're craving to put one foot in front of the other, and just see where that goes. And I think that's a really good signal, for what's happening in cross tourism in terms of transformative travel. Right, you're seeing more people crave what I think really matters in our lives, and understanding travel, pilgrimage, getting out and walking in nature can be so incredibly beneficial in our lives.
What would you define as a successful transformational travel experience? Like, what would the person who comes in leave with? What would that feel like?
Yeah, I think that's very, very personal, and individual to every single traveler. And I think that can be part of what makes it a little bit challenging to enter, is the unknown and uncertainty, and not really having a concrete goal per se.
Mhm.
And for a lot of people that want to have specific goals that they're trying to achieve, and so I think that those that are able to open up to what I say, like small T and big T transformations, are the ones that are able to not overthink it and just get into a flow where transformation is the potential transformation is amplified. So is it about just becoming more empathetic? Is it becoming more compassionate? Is it becoming more aware? Is it becoming more of a global citizen? Is it becoming the potential to be a better parent when you return home, a better member of your community, a better colleague? Are you happier at work, right? Like these little things, I think are what the essence of transformational travel is. But it's also an opportunity to ask big questions, of yourself. Like, am I going to switch my career? Am I going to change a relationship? What am I going to do next? Right? Like, so you have this big spectrum, of potential change from that small T to big T. And so when we talk about training on getting the conditions right ingredients, it's so people can engage and be learning and growing, in whatever way that it works for them in that moment.
Right. I love that. The ingredients. It's true. You need to have like the right ingredients so that people have this nurturing space to be able to do
Yeah.
what they're going to be doing, because no one else can do that work other than them. But to have the space to do it and have everything in a orderly way to some extent, as much as you can.
Right. Right. And that's what makes, coaches and therapists, so perfect for this shift that's happening in travel and tourism, because you have innate understanding and lots of experience with doing that. For the TTC, we're diving into ancient wisdom and modern science, and developing, different trainings that help, your mainstream hotel adopt different techniques and tactics to be able to create those conditions, right? But for individuals like yourself, this is the sandbox that you're comfortable in playing in. So how can we bridge these two worlds a little bit better?
Heck yes. 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 All over the yes. Darcy, do you have any questions you want to pose yet?
I do. I'm fascinated by this, how you're really bringing different people together in conversation that typically wouldn't be in conversation, where there might be
Hmm.
interaction, there wouldn't be the
Hmm.
intimacy. And my brain just going, I was like, this is very similar to what like social workers and people in different fields do, thinking about what, Hirschman Clinical Services does and
Hmm.
Michelle's magic. And I'm
Hmm.
curious how this came to mind for you, what inspired you to be a leader in this field, and really
Hmm.
spearhead this field. I see
Hmm.
you mentioned vision, vision and visionary before
Hmm.
vision, and I see the bravery in you
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
opening up conversation between people who might not want to be talking. So I'm wondering what kind of sparked this in you and what's kept it going.
Huh. That's a good question, and I don't know if I've been asked that in an interview in that way before. Uh, you know, uh, I without getting too far down the rabbit hole or too deep here, what I said at the beginning of the call in terms of a calling, like for me, like I always sensed and felt that I was capable of doing something significant, and whether that is true or not, that feeling and that sense and that commitment to making that possible has been burning inside of me for as long as I can remember.
Mm.
Right. And so, as I've moved down this path, I've recognized that like this is essentially how I see the world. Right. So it hasn't been super challenging to understand the essence of what we're doing, but trying to make, build nomenclature around it and build and frame it right and do the right research and bring in the right thinkers, and from economists to philosopher to spiritual gurus. How can we take all of this wonderful wisdom and knowledge that we have out there and shift an entire industry? And so that's what we've been attempting to do. And for me, that fire still burns, right? So regardless of whatever happens with the TTC, and then or my career, it'll always be centered around this, right? It'll always be about helping people and humanity catalyze travel, because travel is the one place that we can all go near and far that takes us out a little bit out of our comfort zone. And when we're in that space, that is when we have the opportunity to experience the most growth. For me, it's just super simple. Like, take people out of comfort zone, they stretch and learn and grow. Typically become a better versions of themselves. And then, as Michelle said at the beginning, the ripple of that is it's hard to even fathom, right? So if the industry is just able to just tweak a little bit, do this here, do that over the next 20 or 30 years, we are expanding consciousness, across our world. Right. So that's a huge aspiration of mine. And, and so I just stay committed and driven to that.
Thank you. I am definitely very fond of travel, and it gets me out of my comfort zone. And that's one reason I'm so drawn towards it. And another reason I realize
Hmm.
I hesitate. And
Hmm.
that's been historical. And what you just said about the uh, using the word consciousness really got my attention. And I know a
Hmm.
lot of listeners to this podcast and people who gravitate towards this community
Hmm.
are really prioritizing and valuing consciousness.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on how to bring consciousness into daily travels, whether that's, in familiar places or when we're venturing into somewhere new. How might you
Hmm.
suggest or share some of your experience of how you do that?
Yeah. I think that kind of starts to move into some of the research we've done around, how, spirituality and spiritual transcendence. So a lot of the same techniques and tools that we use in our lives to be centered and be more present, be more mindful, right? Different practices, morning rituals, routines, all of that. Travel gives us an opportunity to put our toes in the water sometimes. And like I can set aside time to read for a half an hour this morning. I can set aside time to journal when I don't journal at home. I can set aside time to be more present. I can be more focused on making sure I look up at the stars, or that I try to hold a conversation with nature, with a tree. Like these things we weave into a lot of the different ways that travel designers, depending upon where they are at in their own brand and messaging and audience, to really help them coach their travelers to have more meaningful and deeper experiences in those moments, right? So not unfamiliar for you two, but for a lot of that market out there that wants to potentially become a better version of themselves, or even if they're not even aware of that, by implementing these practices, inviting them to do that, no doubt gives them a more meaningful experience, which then also provides better value, right? And this is the big leap for a lot of that mainstream tourism is, deeper, more meaningful experiences provide insane value for the hotel that is creating the right conditions, or the travel designer that's creating the right conditions. Right. So by creating more value, that drives up loyalty. There's more referrals. Your travelers are telling the story passionately, right? And all of these things really help organizations and businesses to grow, right? And this is leading into the transformation economy, which is what's happening now, and we're very much on the forefront with Joe Pine, the author of the Experience Economy original book in 1999, and now the Transformation Economy
Mm.
that was just published in February.
Oh, interesting.
Mental note. We'll look that up.
Yeah, good for anybody that wants to put together retreats, and travel and enter the transformative travel space. Read the Transformation Economy, because it allows, for me, who I tend to fall into impact and sort of what would be the like whimsical language around the power of travel and the power of this and that, right? But when you can ground it around real economic benefit, for the individual, for the organization facilitating, and for the community that's being impacted, you're really starting to see the power of this shift, right? The opportunity that exists for those that want to make it more than just a fun retreat business, and turn it into a real business that's in the transformation economy.
Well, you hear over and over again people going on vacation and they come back and they need the vacation for the vacation.
Right.
They feel so depleted. They are exhausted because they like jam pack so much into their vacation.
Mhm.
Yeah, that actually people come back, feel transformed, rejuvenated, and then go back into the workplace. Like that's going to be so different. I mean, from a
Mhm.
technical standpoint, I mean, for so many different levels, I mean, I could see the ripple of like seeing somebody more productive. You want that, you want all your workers to be having that experience, especially in
Mhm.
corporate America here. Um,
Yeah.
so I love that notion of really trying to push for that more and more, because I can't imagine anything bad coming from that.
Yeah, one of the things that we teach on, and it's rooted in some of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, is called our path framework. And it really takes travel product and moves it into a process, which means you're engaging with travel well before you leave and well after you've returned, right? So you're giving space and time and energy and discipline to looking at travel in that, in its holistic way, right? Because if we can be more centered and more aware of why we're being called to adventure, right? And then how can we travel better and be more present, be more aware, practice more reciprocity, shift from a checkbox approach into more ways of being while you're traveling. And then when you get back, what is that newfound wisdom? How do you want to make the change? What does integration look like? How am I going to stay motivated? How am I going to be self-accountable? Like these are the sort of things that most of the industry is not talking about and not aware of, and therefore there's an opportunity. Um,
Yeah. I mean, my jam and Darcy's jam is always like the bridge, from so that people continue to feel that way. So it doesn't like, fizzle. I mean, what I love
mhm,
about the walking mentorship um, model is there is a guidebook that you can kind of bring back with you
mhm,
to continue to
mhm.
nurture that spirit that you created when you were away.
Yeah, yeah, they do such a wonderful job with that. Their survival kit.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, brilliantly designed, and I've got a stack of them next to my desk here from my own participation.
Right, right. It's like inspiring me to get them back out for my April trip here. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so important. I think that piece in transformational travel is important. Is the bringing it back and then um, bringing it back home, so you don't have to like be abroad or be traveling all the time. The whole point is that you get to make
Yeah,
those shifts and changes and
absolutely.
for that and to share it with others. I mean, I
Yeah.
certainly personally can be an experience, strength, and hope for those people out there because that's what happened to me last March in Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
When I
Mm-hmm.
went with them,
Mm-hmm.
I came back and it's my life is now shifting and I'm really doing all
That's
these
wonderful.
these things. So um,
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine how that will be affecting other people. So share with us. I know before we even got on the podcast, you were talking a little bit about how you're going to be entering university and
Mm-hmm.
students this way of being. Can you talk a little bit about that and what university you're going to be at?
Yeah, yeah. We have um, been leaning into academia, for years now, and there are different universities and colleges around the world that are starting to move into transformative travel and regenerative design. And um, recently, I was in doing a keynote in Bosnia, and there was a lady that works with the University of South Carolina was there, and she was just like, "Hey, how do you feel about helping us develop some new programming for their School of Hospitality, Retail, and Sports Management?" And so, I've been really inspired to focus on youth in this work when the timing is right. We haven't done a much in this space, but it's something I care about deeply. And so when this came up, I was like, let's go, let's do it. And so we've got an executive certification program that's a hybrid. So there's some virtual coursework, but then some weekly convenings for different cohorts. First one's around transformational travel, 3 weeks. Second one is around regenerative travel, 3 weeks. And then one is around sales and marketing. And this kicks off on April 13th. It's going to be the first time that we've run this program. But super excited about it. We're also doing some research around pilgrimage and transformation with University of South Carolina that's feeding into the content and the curriculum that we're developing. So starting to do that. I just gave a talk with NYU students a couple days ago. So we're starting to see these universities start to recognize that they can weave in some new perspectives and new principles, and practices into their education um, paradigm. And that's super exciting because youth, the travel industry isn't getting a lot of, young people super energized about entering it, right? So we need some new energy and some new purpose, woven into tourism. So hoping this helps.
I'm so jealous. I wish I I had had the opportunity. I totally would have jumped on that early on. Uh, that's great. Yeah, I see that expanding to all universities. It's such a needed piece for sure. Um, awesome, Darcy. Anything else that you want to check in with Jake about before we transition out?
For anyone who's wanting to travel and not quite sure how to where to go, where to start, what to say yes to,
Mhm.
do you have any words of experience or words of wisdom that you could share that might give them a sense of direction or encouragement to trust their inner compass?
Yeah. I guess be, brave enough to actually pay attention, listen to that inner compass, right? And next time you have that, date on the calendar where you realize you can take a holiday, a vacation. The next time you feel like, oh, I need to just get away. The next time you feel like you need to go into the mountains or go to the beach, whatever it may be, that you turn that gaze inward and you ask just why. What is calling me to this adventure? And then you can start to start to get into like, well, what am I longing for? What do I want, out of this travel experience? What do I want out of how do I want this to impact my life? And so just asking some of these bigger questions when you first get that itch to get on the road, I think it really starts to ignite what's possible. And then you keep that inner dialogue going, right, throughout the entire journey and after you've returned home, as Michelle was just talking about that, you know, maintaining that glow, right, or that echo of travel across your life. So I think that's good. We do have a transformational travel journal that's available on Amazon, and it is a full-on guide to this, for travelers. We work B2B. We train hotels and destinations and travel advisors and coaches, etc. But we did write a journal 4 years ago, called the Transformational Travel Journal, that is just an amazing companion, and coach, for people just to pick up, start engaging before their trip, and then continue well after.
That's awesome. I did not know about that journal. That'll definitely
Yeah,
help.
yeah, it's great. We intend to do another one, a follow up more around a pilgrim's perspective. So, this current journal is meant for a large audience, but we kind of want to get into that seeking mentality, and really equip some of those that want to go even deeper. So that's something that's on the horizon.
That's so great.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for trusting your inner compass and following it, as it's shining a light on so many people being able to do the same. And I'm so grateful that you were on today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Darcy.
Yeah, this we're gonna have all your information below, and so people can connect. And I feel like the listeners out there, I mean, we get all different kinds of folks. We get therapists and counselors, and there's so many of us that want to enter, and I feel like you're such a good landing place for folks that have interest in wanting to be retreat leaders or wanting to
Hmm.
travel a transformational travel experience. um,
Hmm.
and to go to your hub for that information is so great, so thank you. We'll have that.
And
Thank you.
maybe we'll see you on the Camino.
Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, let me know how I can get this out for you guys, and if there's any specifics around, make sure I'll put all the right tags in, and then I can make this as beneficial for you guys as possible.
Awesome.
Hey Jake, so any final words you have for our audience before we
Yeah,
leave?
yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks to you, Michelle and Darcy, for having me. In terms of final words to your audience, there's just so much wisdom and knowledge, within that your space, that, as I said earlier, can translate into tourism, beautifully, vitally. um, but it's not just something that I think, you dabble in. It's a full send, right? If you're going to go down this path, I think anything less than, a really strong effort and a lot of discipline and better understanding, how to run an organization, a business, sales and marketing, this is critical. Otherwise, I think you end up spinning your wheels. A lot of aspirations, a lot of dreaming. You might sell one retreat here, one retreat there. But if this is something that you really want to bring to your world, your life, and others, and scale that impact, I think it's important just as much as it is to, for businesses to learn about what you guys are doing and the work and perspectives that you guys have. I think, it goes both ways. Therapists have to know how to run an organization and a business, how to go out in sales and marketing. And, so that's that opportunity that exists right now, in our two respective worlds, right? And that bridge building that you're doing really well with, Michelle.
Thank you, Jake. I appreciate that. Well, we're excited to get this out and let people know more about you. Appreciate your time, your wisdom on this topic, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. See you soon.